And so I look at Judas and Peter and I go, this is the exact same thing. Betrayed the night before he dies by Judas. How did Peter betray him? He gets the sword out, cuts off a guy's ear. Jesus heals that guy. Peter follows Jesus around and eventually denies him by a campfire where he cusses out a little girl. And goes away and weeps bitterly. Judas goes away and weeps bitterly. There is very little different about these two guys. So how is the outcome so different? Judas hangs himself. Peter, we know, is reinstilled into the kingdom of God. The word Peter means rock, and it's his confession that the church is built on. And it's his sermon in the book of Acts that leads to 3,000 people being saved. So if everything looks the same, what's different? What's being built different between the two of them? And this is where God showed me this, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. It's the same thing that's different between the person in this room that's truly growing in their faith and the person in this room who's just pretending. Go to verse 8. Though you have not seen him, you love him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy. Though you have not seen him, you love him. Here's the difference. Peter loved Jesus. Judas loved what Jesus could do for Judas. That's the difference. Peter loved Jesus. Judas loved what Jesus could do for Judas. And that's the reason why when Jesus shows up on the beach and cooks breakfast, he asks Peter the same question 3 times. People read that and they go, John 21, why does Jesus rub Peter's face in his own failure? He's given him his spanking. He's given him his discipline for, hey, you're going to deny me 3 times? I'm going to make a fire, charcoal fire, by the way. The only other time there's a charcoal fire in the New Testament was the fire that Peter was warming himself by. He wants Peter to smell the scene of where he denied him, and he wants to go, hey, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? No. Jesus wasn't rubbing Peter's face in his failure. He was taking him to the point of greatest scarring, of greatest wounding and bringing healing. And how did he bring healing? By asking him, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And those 3 affirmations were not to test and find out whether or not Peter loved Jesus. It was to remind Peter that Jesus knew that Peter loved Jesus even though he failed. And watch this, Peter's love for Jesus was not something that Peter conjured up. It was something that was planted there by Jesus. God is love, and this is love. Not that we loved God, but that he loved us. That scene by the fire is Jesus going, I know you love me, and it's okay. And so the question that we have to answer today in real time is not, okay, well, you go into the scriptures and you go, okay, well, Jesus told Judas beforehand, I already know that you're going to betray me and your life is basically ruined. But Peter, even though you're going to deny me, I have prayed for you, even though the enemy has sought to sift you as wheat. I've prayed for you. And when you have returned, strengthen your brothers. You're not supposed to read that and go, well, I guess we'll just find out whether or not Jesus chose me or not. You're supposed to read that and ask the question, what's the difference of the heart posture between these 2 guys? And there are some of you in this room who you have not known this, but your whole life, you have never really been a Christian. Because all you've ever really loved about Jesus is the eternal insurance he gives you, but you don't know him. How do I know? How do I know? Do you know him? Because though you have not seen him, you love him. And if you're here today and you're wondering whether or not you're really a believer, I believe the test is very simple. It doesn't have to do with your works, and it doesn't have to do with getting a theological vision of what God did for you. It has to do with this question. We'll put it on the screen. Deepest sermon of the year. Do you love Jesus? Do you love Jesus?